Hold on a second. You're watching act.tv's live coverage of the Count Me In rally here in New York City. This is a semi-complicated rally here where a number of union members are willing to risk arrest in order to make their voice heard. As you can see, it is packed wall to wall with people. The chant is, New York City is a union town.
New York City is a union town. New York City is a union town. If it ain't union, shut it down. 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 I'm not sure if by chance Steve Ross is at the NFL for a meeting, but just in case he's here, step down, Steve. Step down, Steve. Step down, Steve. Step down, Steve! 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 Step down, Steve!
And you're watching act.tv's live coverage of the Count Me In rally, where hundreds of union members are gathered outside of the NFL headquarters asking Steve Ross, owner of the Dolphins, to step down.
Well, let me tell you. If you haven't figured out by the signs or the pictures of him, he condones sexism. He's allowed women to be sexually harassed on his projects, and when he was asked the question, he said no comment. He had no comment. He allowed our brother Eric Smokes to be targeted by the New York Post. They called him Killer Coffee Boy. Someone who paid their debt to society and went into an apprenticeship program and turned their life around, like many of our brothers and sisters in the building trades have done. He's allowed workers on his projects to be exploited. He's threatened workers for exercising their First Amendment right with termination. He's fired workers that have participated in Count Me In rallies. He's a union buster, and we know that. So before we get started, I just want to say, listen, the NYPD is not our enemy. If the marshals ask you to move over, just move over. There's a reason, right? We're not here to fight with the NYPD. They're definitely helping us make this possible. They know one way or the other we're taking the streets.
You're watching act.tv's live coverage outside of the NFL headquarters in New York City, where thousands of hard hats and workers from labor unions are calling on the NFL to ask Steve Ross to resign from the NFL Social and Racial Justice Committee. Miami Dolphins owner Steve Ross is accused of condoning racism, sexism, and union busting at the Hudson Yards Project and other related projects. Let's listen into some of the speakers.
Right down 51st Street, and they're not going to get up. They're not going to move until they are arrested.
If you missed that, some union workers are going to be laying down in the street blocking traffic, and they're not going to get up until they are arrested.
We are writing history. So we want to fill in all the space that we have from here to Central Park if we have to, but we want to move that way. We want to make sure everybody can hear what's going on. And
again, you're watching act.tv's live coverage in front of the NFL headquarters here in New York City of a rally and march where thousands of union laborers are calling on the NFL to ask Steve Ross, he's the owner of the Miami Dolphins, to resign from the NFL Social and Racial Justice Committee, basically because he's accused of condoning racism, sexism, and union busting. Thousands of unionized construction workers are gathered here rallying, saying, whose city? Our city. New York City is a union town. They're calling on the NFL to ask Steve Ross of Related Companies. He's the founder and chairman there and the owner of the Miami Dolphins to step down from the league's Social and Racial Justice Committee. Remember, not only is he trying to bust unions, but he is also been a very controversial figure in the take a knee NFL controversy over the last couple of years. Again, hundreds, possibly thousands, it's hard to tell, of unionized construction workers, both men and women. I'm going to say it is heavily men here, but there is a wide spectrum of races possible, present. They're accusing Steve Ross of condoning sexism, racism, and union busting. He is the owner of the Miami Dolphins, and he is a chairman of this company called Related Companies. Related has been accused of condoning racism and sexism at the massive Hudson Yard project and busting up the unions to try to get a cheaper rate, as well as on other related construction projects. From unaddressed sexual exploitation by the contractor to the surveillance and outing of a formerly incarcerated African-American worker on its job site, Related has failed to address social and racial justice on its own job site. You can hear the fabulous chants that are always present at a union labor rally, and many of these workers are going to be laying down in the street causing civil disobedience, which I guess is the only way you can get the true media to cover something like this. Again, you're watching ACT-TV. If you like this kind of coverage, be sure to share our page, like our page, and leave a comment.
Whose streets?
The chant is, whose streets? Our streets.
Whose streets? Our streets. Whose streets? Our streets. Whose streets? Our streets. Whose streets? Our streets. Whose streets? Our streets. Whose streets? Our streets.
You can see many of these union members wearing step-down Steve shirts in the style of the Miami Dolphins jersey. Again, one of the workers told me that they're out here today because they don't want to stand for the hypocrisy of having Steve Ross on the NFL's Social and Racial Justice Committee, given what he is doing. And he also said that hardworking New Yorkers have seen firsthand how Related has allowed minorities, women, unionized construction workers to be picked on and dehumanized, and that's why they're calling on the NFL to insist that Ross step down from that particular committee. Again, you're watching ACT-TV's live coverage of a Count Me In rally in front of the NFL building here in New York City, where hundreds of union construction workers are protesting.
Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, holiday, rainy day.
These union workers are asking Steve Ross, owner of the Miami Dolphins and founder and chairman of Related Companies, the company is called Related Companies, not just Related Companies, to step down from the league's Social and Racial Justice Committee. The NFL announced the committee earlier this year as a joint player and ownership commitment, but basically this guy is trying to union bust on the big Hudson Yards construction project here in New York City and try to kick out union workers for lower paid workers on that project.
Are we ready to fight for our pensions? Are we going to fight for union wages? Whose city? Whose city? Whose city? Whose city? Whose city? Whose city? Oh, count me in! Count me in! Count me in! Count me in!
Again, the hashtag for this event is Count Me In, and that is what they are chanting right now. Count Me In, hashtag Count Me In. You're watching ACT-TV's live coverage
Tuesday, Wednesday,
of this protest march. It's a Count Me In protest.
Friday,
where several union members are going to be laying down in the street across 51st Street and Park Avenue in order to block traffic and do an act of civil disobedience. Again, these workers are calling on Steve Ross to resign from the NFL Social and Racial Justice Committee because the company that he is the chairman of is guilty of union busting, is guilty of sexism, and is guilty of racism. That is their contention, and they want him off that committee. Lots of heads turning as the streets go by. I think one of the speakers is starting now.
Good afternoon, Village Train! You know, we gather here today in front of the headquarters of the National Football League with the biggest rally that the National Football League has ever seen in New York City. Because if you take on the Village Trains, you take on all of us in the Village Trains. Brothers and sisters, that the National Football League is dealing with some serious controversial issues. And we in the Village Trains don't offer an opinion on those issues other than they should simply be resolved and that the owners of the NFL should be respecting the collective bargaining process. Let's not forget that every single player that takes the field on a Sunday is a union member. So let's give a shout out to our brothers in the NFL. Trying to deal with the controversial issue has created a committee called the Social and Racial Justice Committee. And they appointed Steve Ross, the chairman of Related, and the owner of Miami Dolphins to that committee. And we demand that the NFL remove Steve Ross from this committee now. Keep Steve Ross on that committee. It will dilute the integrity of that committee. And the NFL has an opportunity with a viewership of 15 million people every single week to do some good work in the United States of America. And if they want to dilute the committee, they can keep Steve on. But we also have a message for the NFL that every day Steve Ross remains on that committee, we will continue to assemble and voice our opposition here at NFL headquarters.
They just said they're coming back here every day until the NFL kicks him off the committee.
We see signs in the crowd today that say, "Step down, Steve." And really, we need Steve to step down. Steve should be an honorable owner of the NFL and step aside. And he should really let the NFL do the work that it has to do. Because when the NFL knows what we know about the real Steve Ross, there's no way that they will allow a man like Steve Ross onto a very important committee in the National Football League. Steve Ross is silent. He is silent on issues that affect the working class here in New York. Steve Ross and his minions, Bruce Beal and Jeff Blau, have embarked upon a campaign trying to destroy the working class here in New York City. They engage silently and they allow acts of sexism and racism and union busting to happen under their noses. And I'll tell you what, brothers and sisters, as I said to some other people, you can be the CEO and chairman of very big organizations, and you can take the glory for all the good, but you also have to take the responsibility for all the bad, brothers and sisters. Yeah. Amen to that, brothers and sisters, right? We are proud New York City building trades, construction workers. All we want to do every single day is get up at the crack of dawn, no matter what the weather conditions are like, leave our homes, go out and build an empire. Build an empire for the ultra-rich here in New York City. And a man like Stephen Ross, who's worth almost $12 billion, wants to decide who gets a good wage and who doesn't get a good wage. And I will tell you what, brothers and sisters, the New York City building trades rank and file ain't taking that laying down. We're standing up. We're fighting back.
You're watching ACT-TV's live coverage of the Count Me In rally in front of the NFL headquarters here in New York City.
We've heard a lot in the press lately that the truth isn't the truth. But here's the truth about Stephen Ross. When we talk about sexism, we have, and you'll hear today from a proud Local 79 member who is exploited as a non-union construction worker at the hands of her male supervisors. And when she names related in a complaint, related is silent on the issue. But that is not the first time or only time that related has been hit with a sexual harassment lawsuit. In 2010, at their corporate offices, there was a gentleman who was a vice president that was accused of sexual harassment. The case was settled with the complainant, and the vice president was promoted to a president. Did you hear what I said, brother and sisters? The vice president, the aggressor in the case, wasn't fired but was promoted. That means that Stephen Ross condones this kind of behavior. Talk about racism. When we talk about it, we have the goods on Stephen Ross as well. When he chose to out in a very disgusting article in that trashy publication called the New York Post. And he chose to out a man named Eric Smokes, a proud Labor's Local 20 member, who paid his debt to society, who was falsely accused and is currently fighting for his exoneration, and chose to out him. He didn't out him because he made $42 an hour. He outed him because he was an African-American man working for a living. And the fact of the matter is this, is that, brothers and sisters, that there were two other brothers that were white, like me, that already did that work, and they could have outed those folks, but they chose our brother Eric Smoke for a saucy bullshit headline. And union busting. You will hear today from workers that were employed on related projects with non-union contractors that stood up and exercised their Section 7 rights and tried to organize into a union and were fired. And the National Labor Relations Board has come back and has issued a complaint that those terminations, they were illegal. They were against those brothers' rights. And when you'll hear firsthand from them about how Steve Ross is silent on the issue and is allowing union busting to happen, not at his project around the city, at the Hudson Yards, at projects around the city. And that's a union buster in our eyes, brothers and sisters.
You're watching ACT-TV's live coverage of the Count Me In rally here in New York City in front of, you can see the people in the building looking out. We're in front of the NFL headquarters here in New York City at the Count Me In rally with hundreds of
properly.
Workers,
and they pointed out in their letter
buildings,
that the only way to
construction
point out to properly
workers.
deal with those people that are returning home is to make sure
They're calling on the NFL to ask Steve Ross to resign from the NFL Social and Racial Justice Committee, secondary to his racist, alleged sexism and his union busting activities.
The NFL. He's a fraud. The emperor has no clothes. This fight will not stop. We will continue. Today we're engaging in civil disobedience, not because we want to waste our time, but when we have important issues such as this. Important issues such as this, brothers and sisters. Sometimes we have to sacrifice our own freedom to make sure that all the power brokers and all the decision makers in the National Football League and related know that we are serious about this fight. We are committed to this fight, and there's no retreat, and there's no surrender, and it only gets more messy up from here.
You're watching ACT-TV's live coverage of the Count Me In rally where building trades workers are gathered in front of the NFL headquarters here in New York City and are about to engage in civil disobedience, which I believe is going to look like many of these workers lying down in the streets and stopping traffic in order to call attention to Steve Ross's racist, sexist, and union-busting activities as the head of related companies. Steve Ross is the owner of the Miami Dolphins, and he's oddly on the Social and Racial Justice Committee for the NFL, and these workers know that to be, or believe that to be, an enormous injustice.
I have the proud, really the high honor right now of introducing a hard-working man named Eric Smokes, who's going to give you a little bit of his own story. You know, me and Eric are in different local unions, but we're in the same international union. Happen to be in my international union 34 years. I celebrated 2 Mondays ago, and I plan on being until the day I die, brothers and sisters. But Eric's just going to give a couple of words about his story and his experience and what it's like to wake up on a Sunday morning and see you passed out in the New York Post for a sensational headline that really meant nothing other than Steve Ross and related taking a cheap shot at the working man in New York. Let's give it up for our brother Eric Smokes. I am Eric Smokes. I just want to share a bit of my story with y'all. I've been out of prison for the past 7 years. And throughout this time, I've worked hard and did everything I can do to keep myself out of trouble. But what helped me most was the apprenticeship program for the Cement and Concrete Union. This occupation has given me an opportunity to really provide well for my family, to make great choices, to meet good people, and to do what it takes to stay a free man. But to my dismay, on June 2nd, I woke up to a phone call by Larry Hughes. For those in Local 20 know Larry Hughes, a real dedicated individual. But he told me there was an article in the paper about me being a killer coffee boy. Now, when I heard this term, killer coffee boy, I was taken aback because I didn't know how to handle that. But then I thought about it, and I said, no, I'm not no coffee boy or no killer coffee boy. I'm a husband, I'm a father, I'm a brother, you know, I'm a whole lot of things, but a killer I'm not. I'm currently challenging my conviction right now in court, so soon I'll be vindicated, and I tell that story, I say that I will be vindicated because I will be. There ain't no question about it, because I'm an innocent man. But when you have people like Steve Ross who try to put me out there for a public flogging, thinking that you, my peers, as well as people in New York City would say, yeah, get rid of him, trash him to the side. Yeah, absolutely. But that's what Ross thought, Steve Ross thought that y'all would throw me to the side and leave me alone. Solidarity! Solidarity! But he had something in store for him when he seen the response. But it's not only y'all, it's people in my community who didn't know my story, who didn't know I just was formerly incarcerated individual, but who seen me work hard, who seen by me being a union worker I was able to provide for my family, who stood up behind me and stood beside me and told me to keep moving forward. So I wouldn't be deterred by this. We're not going to be deterred by Stephen Ross and his nonsense. More than anything, like they said, they made him part of a committee on social and racial injustice. But as Mike said, how can he be at the head of a committee or part of a committee that's going to address those issues when he got those in his own organization? When he put me out there as an African-American coffee man versus the other Caucasian coffee men. He exploited me because he thought I was a soft target. Right? He thought I was a soft target. But that's not the case.
Union strong!
Who are we?
Union!
Who?
Union!
Whose city is this?
Our city!
Whose city?
Our city!
Whose city?
Our city!
Whose city?
Our city!
Whose city?
Our city!
Thank you, y'all.
You're watching act.tv's live coverage of the protest in front of the NFL,
It's so much better
where
when it
building
comes from
workers
the person that expected
and trade
by the
unionists
behavior of Stephen Ross.
are getting
That's the
together
reason why
to call on
everything that
the
we're
NFL to
making
ask
is
Steve
just
Ross, owner of the
We're not
Miami
making it up for the
Dolphins,
sake of making it up. These are real life things that are
to
happening
step
here.
down from the
In
NFL
New York
Social and
City,
Racial Justice
in the most
Committee.
progressive city in the United States of America. And there's no
Steve
way,
Ross is also
there's no way that
the
we
founder
can all
and
remain
chairman
silent
of a company
while
called
those goddamn
Related
things
Companies.
happen right here in the
Related
city
has
that
been
we
accused
love.
of condoning
With all of
racism,
our heart that
sexism,
we work
and
every
union
single
busting
day.
at the massive
There's no way
Hudson
we should
Yard
be
project,
tolerating that, brothers and sisters.
which is one of the, if not the largest construction project happening in New York City right now, where they're basically trying to bust up the unions so that they can bring in lower priced workers. They're trying to pay the union members less
Anthony Harmon is the
or get rid of them.
president of the A. Philip Randolph Institute. For people that don't know their labor history, go home and check out the name A. Philip Randolph tonight, and you'll find out that it was a courageous man that stood up to the barons in the transportation industry, in the rail car industry in the early 1900s in this country, and took African American workers out on strike, shut down the whole entire transit system. But that's our labor history, brothers and sisters. That's who we are in this labor movement in New York City. So again, I have the honor and privilege of introducing our union brother, Anthony Harmon.
You're watching the Count Me In rally live here from New York City.
That's who we are, brothers and sisters. We're the union. Again, I'm Anthony Harmon. I'm president of the A. Philip Randolph Institute, the senior constituency group of the AFL-CIO. Today, we stand proudly here to support you all. Today, we stand proudly here to support our brother Eric, who's going through. But we know that when we stand together, where there's solidarity, where there's union, we can defeat them all. We can defeat them all. I stand proudly with our brothers and sisters who built this city. Our iron workers, our electrical workers, our painters, our laborers. We stand proudly with you all who built this city, and we're not going to let them forget it. We're not going to let them forget it. The A. Philip Randolph Institute, the senior constituency group of the AFL-CIO. And not only do I represent them, but I also represent the coalition of black trade unionists. And I'm here to tell you today that we stand with you.
You're watching act.tv's live coverage of the Count Me In rally in front of the NFL headquarters in New York City, where trade unionists and other rank and file workers are protesting Steve Ross, owner of the Miami Dolphins, and also
and I want to thank LaVon Chambers, and I want to thank my good friend Barry, 100 black men and construction workers, and one thing my friend Gary Barber, who informed me of the story about Eric, and I felt compelled to do something about it, which is why I sent a letter requesting a meeting with the management company and discuss this issue. Let's have a sit down, let's talk about it. Because when our people do right, we stand with them. We stand with them, and it's important for them to know that there's no dividing between our civil rights community and our labor. There's no dividing our civil rights community and our organized labor.
The speaker is saying there is no division between the civil rights community and organized labor. You're watching a Count Me In rally in front of the NFL headquarters here in New York City live. You're watching here on act.tv. Count Me In is a movement of rank-and-file workers fighting for good wages, benefits in the face of related companies' continuous attacks on the middle class and hardworking New Yorkers. New York is a union town, and this group of hundreds, if not thousands, of workers are chanting that quite a bit.
Count me in! Count me in! Next up, we're going to bring up
Across the street are the New York City women in construction. So it's not all men here, but there is a big contingent of men here.
Behind the scenes are trying to go ahead and conquer and divide the Billy trades. But again, like I said, it's better when you hear it from the first hand account than when you hear it from my lips. So brothers and sisters, I have the high honor and privilege of introducing our friend, our brother, Terry Moore, the business manager of Local 46.
The next speaker is clearly not a Miami Dolphins fan. He's wearing a Jets hat.
Let me say that on September 16th, the New York Jets are playing the Miami Dolphins. And we will be out at the Meadowlands to root for the New York Jets. Years ago, and this is going to take a couple of minutes, but I'll give you the Reader's Digest. Years ago, Bruce Beal and Stephen Ross asked that Local 46 take all of the carpenters' work on their jobs. And let me rephrase that for all, especially the carpenters that are here. They asked us to do your work, and not just on the concrete, on all the interiors. You see all the signs about solidarity. Would that be solidarity? No! We knew what to do, and we said no fucking way.
I love these words.
What do they do? They start to talk to who is the president of the International Carpenters Union. And they try to get him to sit with me. And we did. We sat down. And what was their plan then? This is great stuff. Because they say they're not union busters. From day one, they've been union busters. They tried to get us to agree to take the laborers' work. Imagine the balls. Okay, so now I end up with a picket line since March, because we're on the outside looking in at the Hudson Yards. And I am proud of my people, my Local 46 members, to stand tall every day.
You're watching ActTV's live coverage of the Count Me In rally, where thousands of workers are gathered in front of the NFL to ask the NFL to basically make Steve Ross resign from the NFL's Social and Racial Justice Committee for his work with related corporations where he has been where he has been accused of racism, sexism, and union busting.
How ugly everyone! You guys, you are so beautiful today. You are so beautiful today. We need to stick together. And I know that everybody's all over the carpenters about what's going on at the Hudson Yards. That is not their choice. It is an international rep's choice. You should all understand that. And the people who decide that they have to go through our picket line, I will say shame on you. I will say shame on you if you go through our picket line. We have to stand together in this town.
You're watching ACT-TV's live coverage
especially with the bully
of the Count Me In rally in front of the
that's up
NFL.
on 60th Street, the two of them.
Excuse me, in front of the NFL's
If you
headquarters,
haven't seen it,
asking Steve Ross to
people are
resign
going after
from the
Gallup.
NFL's Social and Racial Justice
it's getting
Committee. Miami
more
Dolphins owner
and more
Steve Ross is accused of
deadly.
condoning racism,
There's an
sexism,
article in
and
the paper every week
union
to
busting
twist this up.
at Hudson
They're
Yards
trying to
Project and
somehow
other
get in
related
your
projects, the
eyes
largest construction
so that
projects
you
here
think
in New York
that
City.
we're not together. We are together. You know why?
There's a lot of talk here about solidarity and togetherness. There has been
This is something they don't
certain
understand.
groups standing up for
We
other
have
groups,
you.
including,
We have you.
you know,
You're what
cement
brings the
workers
building trades together.
who are
There's
standing
five
up for
of us here, and there's nobody
the construction
here.
union, etc.
What's the message to the likes of related?
And they're saying they're not going to be split.
What's the message today?
I noticed there is not a lot of other non-independent media coverage here, probably because solidarity is not a popular thing to talk about on the news, but it is quite
I
beautiful.
want to thank you guys for the opportunity to speak. My picket line, Local 46's picket line, every day at the Hudson Yards. Everybody heard it first hand, brothers and sisters. Real quick, we're going to let Darrell, right here, David Robinson, and Tiara.
You're watching ACT-TV's live coverage
about their experience
of the Count Me In rally. Hashtag Count Me In. You could check it out. Here's some workers are about to come and talk about their experience with related companies, of which Steve Ross, the owner of the Miami Dolphins, is chairman and co-owner.
They get preyed upon and related. Steve Ross, the chairman, the owner of the Miami Dolphins, is silent on the issue, brothers and sisters. Silent. So you gotta have the high honor. I can introduce labor leaders all day long. Like my brother Terry just said, if it wasn't for us, they go in the trenches every day, the workers, there'd be no union. So brothers and sisters, give them a couple of minutes of our time, and then we're gonna bring up the leader of the building trades here in New York City. A guy that don't need no introduction. A guy that's fighting this fight every day. The president, Gary LaBarbera. He doesn't know the words.
I love this.
First off, give a shout out to you. Because without you, we have nothing. You is strong.
It's wonderful to see labor getting together across racial lines in solidarity.
We worked for Related. We worked for a company that did us dirty. They did us wrong. No medical. No nothing for our children. No fair wages. And when we stood up, and all we did was ask them, what about a 401k plan? You know what they did? They terminated us. They terminated us. And thanks to Mike, Paris, Tamir, they came to our aid. And here we are today. Alright? But stand up. We're going to be in every fight. Right? This is about us. This is about us fighting for New York. Fighting for our rights.
My name is David Robinson. I'm gonna agree with everything my comrade Darrell Thomas just said, and he said it all. I really ain't got nothing to say, but count me in.
I'm Tiara Williams. I was subject to many things on the site, as far as me being a female and my voice not being heard from nobody, and I didn't even want to work construction no more. 79 picked me up. It took months for them to get me. I done went back to school to be a nurse and everything. They put me back on my feet, and they gave me the confidence that I needed to work. So not only are they working for me, or somebody that's helping me, or a lawyer for me, or a rep for me, this is my new family. Against a sexual harassment issue I had, instead of you helping me out, you let me go. Because this person was somebody to you, or their father was somebody to you. I didn't deserve none of that, and I didn't ask for it. But I think the best thing that they could have did was let me go. Because now I'm standing with the right people. And even though Steve Ross is not on the site with us, he says nothing, does nothing, it's like he just throws in the garbage. So whatever committee he think he on and whatever buttons he think he pushing, he needs to stop this whole elevator that he running. Because it's going nowhere, and as long as we stand together, he gonna be out of here.
You're watching ActTV's live coverage of the county in front of the NFL headquarters, where workers have gotten together to call on the NFL to call for the resignation of Steve Ross from the NFL Social and Racial Justice Committee, secondary to his actions that are considered union busting, racist, sexist.
Brothers and sisters, tell me in! Tell me in! All right, brothers and sisters, I want to say a few things. First of all, I want to tell you how proud I am as the president of New York City Building Trades of all of you. You are the strength of this Count Me In movement. You are the rank and file. You are the backbone of the building trades. You are. I want to tell you something else. Today, you may not know who they are, but there are brothers and sisters here from other unions across the state AFL-CIO. Yesterday, at the AFL-CIO convention, with every union in the state of New York, public-private building trades, a resolution was passed on behalf of 2.5 million members that the AFL-CIO stands in complete solidarity and support of the Canadian movement. We are growing. Now, I want to tell you a little bit of something. Terry mentioned it about the attacks on us and me. This rally was announced at the end of last week. There was an article in the business journals on Monday. On Tuesday, the Center for Union Facts announced and began the next phase of a multi-million-dollar attack and campaign against me. Today, on the way over here, I got a call from the General Counsel to the Building Trades that related wants to serve me today with their second lawsuit. Brothers and sisters, what they're trying to do is go through me to get to you. And I'm here to tell you that is not gonna happen.
You're watching ActTV's live coverage of the Count Me In movement, where thousands of construction workers and building tradesmen are gathered in front of the NFL headquarters here in New York City. This is a live demonstration.
The respect, the dignity, and the jobs we deserve.
You're watching, or you're hearing, the head of the Building Trades Union speak from the back of a truck.
I will not stop fighting for you, no matter how bad the attacks become, no matter how many lawsuits they sue me personally. I stand with you every day, every night, every week, every month, every year. And finally, I want you to know, you can count me in.
We're here live at the Count Me In rally in front of the NFL headquarters. Count Me In is a movement of workers, mostly construction workers and building trades workers, fighting for their wages, their benefits, and fighting today in the face of related companies' continuous attacks on the middle class and hardworking New Yorkers. The movement is growing in direct response to this particular developer's blatant disregard for workers' rights, and basically trying to get them off the job. There is about to be, wow, the cops are actually moving the gates. Okay, the union worker's about to lay down in the street to do civil disobedience, and the cops actually just opened up the gates, which I have never seen before in my life at any protest I've ever been to. So we're... Everyone careful. So we're marching into the street. As you can see, we are on Park Avenue, a major thoroughfare in New York City, at the crossroads of 51st Street, right in front of Grand Central. And all of these union members are walking in the street. As you can see, there's hundreds of construction workers moving into the streets to do a civil disobedience. We have to go up front, Rebecca. That's where they're laying down. And the rest of the workers have been led into the streets by the police, which is very unusual, highly, highly unusual. Again, you're watching ACT.tv's live coverage of civil disobedience here in New York City, where tradespeople, construction people, building tradesmen and women have gathered in front of the NFL to call on Steve Ross, owner of the Miami Dolphins, and chairman of Related Companies, who Related Companies is the name of the company, who are basically trying to bust up the union so they can have cheaper labor to build one of the largest construction projects that this city has going on. In fact, I believe it is the largest construction project. Again, we're kind of wall-to-wall bodies, and it's very hard to get. Rebecca, you're going to have to bust through the union workers with that camera.
I know they got them, but
they just...
I know that shit. Once they start grabbing, they just...
This is kind of fun.
Once they start grabbing, they just grab. I'm not with that.
Okay, so we're going to see what happens here. We're sort of in the middle of this civil disobedience. You're watching ACT.tv's live coverage of the Count Me In rally. It's obvious that the police officers do not want to do this, but there is people, there are union tradesmen kneeling down in the streets. Yeah, we want to go out there. Go. Thank you. As you can see, there are union tradesmen. We're walking through the line. There's union tradespeople sitting in the street at the cross-section of Park Avenue and 51st Street. This is a Count Me In rally. They are sitting all the way across the street. And there are police officers here, but they have been slow to move in and grab people. There was a lot of... there was some talk at the beginning during the speakers that this was a movement not against the police, obviously. And it seems like the police are not being very aggressive, to be quite honest. Here they come. There are at least, I would say, 30 union workers, maybe 40. It's hard to know how many union workers it takes to cross the street, literally. But they are sitting across Park Avenue in front of the NFL headquarters to call on, to bring attention to the fact that one of the NFL's owners, he owns the Miami Dolphins, is also at the head of this corporation called Related Companies that is busy not only being racially divisive and giving into sexism, but basically they are trying to bust up the union so they can hire cheaper labor to do their large construction projects here in New York City. This is the Count Me In rally. You're watching ACT.tv. I don't see any like other non-independent media here. If you like this kind of coverage and you think you want to hear, or other people deserve to hear what's happening from the streets, please share our page. Count Me In is a movement of rank-and-file workers fighting for good wages and benefits in the face of related corporations, which is run in part by Steve Ross, owner of the Miami Dolphins. Their contentious attacks on the middle class and hard-working New Yorkers. There are a lot of people here, ladies and gentlemen, watchers. Make sure to, I hate to do this in the middle of this awesome thing, but, do us a favor and leave us a comment. As you can see, there's a lot of guys here. I'm here. Well, we have our camera on the line, but I'm here with Kat Bresler. Kat, can you talk a little bit about the significance of what's going on here?
Well, what I see are my union brothers and sisters standing strong together against racism, calling out Steve Ross for partnering against the building trades and not respecting our brothers and sisters in labor. Disrespecting them on race and gender are unacceptable. Dividing us is what is causing the problem. We are standing with our brothers and sisters in the NFL, and we are asking for Steve Ross to step down.
Have you heard anything back from the NFL?
No, at this time we haven't heard any comments. All we've heard are attacks. They have no rationale for them except for to break us up, to divide us, to drive wages down, and to divide us up by race, gender, ethnicity, religion, whatever they use to fissure.
Oh, like everyone's trying to do across the whole country. It's very Trumpian.
What it is it's unacceptable. It's not one principle. It is a historic fight. This has been a fight that came before him, it will exist after him, and it will exist so long as we decide to break apart and instead of unify in one voice and stand together against this.
It is really, if the NFL does ask Steve Ross to step down, what would that mean to the unions, to the trade unions? How would that win solidify their ability to keep their job?
It is one victory, but overall they need to come to the table, they need to have these conversations, they need to have an open dialogue with members and with their representatives. Until then, we cannot hope to have our voices heard and have the things that we want implemented into contracts.
If people are watching at home, which we know they are, what can they do to help and support both this movement and unions, union solidarity across the country, especially in the face of all the friggin' rhetoric that happens against unions?
I think one part of it is to follow @CountMeIn on Twitter, but mostly to find local union organizing happening in your neighborhood and support it.
We're talking to Kat Bresler. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. You're watching Act TV. I'm Juliana Forlano. Looks like the police are moving in to arrest some of the protesters. Again, they're doing the normal thing that they do, which is they play a recording. The New York City Police Department is obviously.
There's a lot of utilize the available sidewalk.
As you can see, the normal guy is here with the recorded warning. It's a melee here, people. There's the entirety of Park Avenue is blocked across 51st Street on a very busy time of day. This could literally be causing gridlock across the entire city. You're watching ACT TV's coverage of the Count Me In rally.
You may be charged with additional crimes. In New York City, if you have refused to leave the roadway, you will be placed under arrest on the charge of disorderly conduct. If you do not cooperate and accompany the arresting officer to the prisoner transport vehicle, or if you resist arrest, you may be charged with additional crimes. Since you have refused to leave the roadway, you will be placed under arrest on the charge of disorderly conduct. If you do not cooperate and accompany the arresting officer to the prisoner transport vehicle, or if you resist arrest, you may be charged with additional crimes.
You're watching ACT TV's live coverage of the Count Me In
you will be
rally.
placed under arrest on
And
the
you can
charge
see
of
that the
disorderly
arrests
conduct.
are starting
If
to
you do not
happen.
cooperate and accompany the arresting officer
These building tradesmen are being arrested
or if you resist arrest, you may be charged with additional
for
crimes.
disorderly
Since you have
conduct.
refused to leave the roadway, you will be
As you can see, the police officers are being quite kind.
The arresting officer to the prisoner transport vehicle, or if you resist arrest, you may be charged with additional crimes. Since you have refused to leave the roadway, you will be
what you're watching here
charge of disorderly conduct. If you do not cooperate
is the Count Me In rally here in New York, where an act of civil disobedience being committed by, I'd say, probably 40, maybe even more, union construction workers, union building tradesmen and women, is happening.
You may be charged with additional crimes. Since you have refused
Count Me In is a movement of basically rank and file workers who are trying to protect their wages and benefits in the face of related companies' continuous attacks on the middle class.
Since you have refused to leave the roadway, you will be placed under arrest on the charge of disorderly conduct.
Some of the members of these building trades have said that it is the responsibility of the civil rights movement and the labor community to support workers from all walks of life.
Since you have refused to leave the roadway, you will be placed under arrest on the charge of disorderly conduct.
You're watching, I believe it's someone from a religious order who is, I believe, a Catholic, it looks like, blessing or giving a blessing to the workers who are about to be arrested for disorderly conduct. Behind, I don't know if we can get a shot of this, but there is a very large bus waiting to transport these people to the precinct.
Charge of disorderly conduct.
Steve Ross, again, is the chairman and founder of Related Companies and the owner of the Miami Dolphins. He is being accused, and they have given evidence of Steve Ross is overlooking issues of racism and sexism and his own personal participation in union busting on his construction sites, and they are asking him to step down. I just spoke to one of the organizers who has said that they would like people at home to call the NFL Commissioner Roger Goodell and tell him to have Steve step down. The number you can call is 212-450-2000. Again, if you want to support this movement, 212-450-2000. The police have moved in. There's just a melee going on here.
You will be placed under arrest on the charge of disorderly conduct.
Arresting the folks for disorderly conduct.
Or if you resist arrest, you may be charged with
They've got the zip tie handcuffs as usual.
Since you have refused to leave the roadway, you will be placed under arrest on the charge of disorderly conduct.
Spectators everywhere. Again, we are in the middle of New York City. You're watching the Count Me In rally,
or if you resist arrest,
where resistors have blocked Park Avenue, which does in the middle at 5 o'clock. It is the middle of rush hour, and this action has the potential to tie up traffic in the entire city of New York.
If you have refused to leave the roadway, you will be placed under arrest on the charge of disorderly conduct.
Again, these workers are bringing attention to how Steve Ross, both the owner of the Miami Dolphins and
Since you have refused to leave the roadway, you will be placed under arrest on the charge of disorderly conduct.
the police are kind of shooing us out of the way.
Arresting officer to the prisoner transport vehicle, or if you resist arrest, you may be charged with additional crime. Since you have refused to leave the roadway, you will be placed under arrest on the charge of disorderly conduct.
Yeah, hi, I'm down here on the line before they get arrested. Can you talk a little bit about what it means to have your body on the line today?
What does it mean? I'm doing it for my brothers and sisters that can't get arrested, and we're standing up for for workers throughout this country. It's not just about New York, but throughout the country. Worker exploitation should not exist in this country. We came too far, and it's still happening today. So we're standing up today for all workers.
I noticed that a lot of people on the line are not African American. Do you think that is on purpose?
No, I don't think so.
It's just how it is.
I don't think so.
And I noticed the police are being really nice to you. More so than I cover protests all the time.
Say that again?
I cover protests all the time. Sometimes they're not so nice.
Well, I guess they're nice today. I don't know.
Well, people watching at home, what would you want them to do or know about what's going on?
That what Steve Ross is doing is wrong. He's standing on a committee, and yet he's doing the opposite of what he preaches. You know, he's not standing for social justice. He's not standing for unions. He's not standing for women, men and women on job sites that are exploited in a sexual manner. You know, so
this is great. I got to tell you, I've really enjoyed covering this. I've covered a couple of Count Me In rallies before, and it's really very powerful. act.tv. Oh, there you go. You gotta go. The man I was just speaking to is next in line for being arrested. I can't find my camera woman, but I bet she's around here. There she is. They have basically cleared the roadway of, I would say, 40 or more people sitting across the roadway. They're sitting across Park Avenue in the middle of Midtown in New York City, and there were hundreds, possibly even several thousand building trades workers here for this Count Me In protest. Again, you can follow it on hashtag Count Me In if you like hearing from union members and hearing the other side that you don't necessarily hear on regular mainstream media. Do us a favor and leave a comment underneath this stream. It really, really helps. I've never seen anything like it. The police actually opened up the gates to let the building tradesmen come and sit in the street. They facilitated it, which was great.
Sure.
Hi.
Hi, how are you?
Good. Can you introduce yourself to our audience, like what trade are you in, etc.?
Hi, my name is Twana Huff. I'm local 46. I'm an iron worker.
Can you talk about the importance of what's happening today?
Yeah, actually, we're standing up, like I said, and you've heard so far, this guy Steve Ross, man. This guy Steve Ross. Union is very important in this city. This is how your buildings get built, your high-rises that everybody live in. We do that every day, and we sacrifice our lives. So to be discriminated against for racism, gender, background, history is wrong.
Do you think that he is just basically trying to bust up the union so that he can then hire some, lower paid worker?
Of course. It's always cheaper for non-union. Always. You don't have to give benefits. There's no medical, no dental, nothing that protects you once you're non-union.
It sounded to me like a little bit like some of the stories of what he did, the thing about, throwing the African-American man under the bus was in order to basically create divisions within the union on racial lines.
Absolutely, and we've come a long way. It started out like that. All unions started out that. It was predominantly white people in the unions, and people have fought so hard for the diversity, and for somebody to come in and try to take us back to where we just came from is ridiculous.
Talk about, you're one of the only women here today. I noticed the building trades women were here, but talk about what that's like and what that means.
You know what? First of all, women weren't always accepted and filled. We're supposed to be barefoot and pregnant at home. So for us to be allowed out here, it's an honor to be out here with these guys. They're family. We spend more hours with them than we get to spend with our husbands and children. So we really are like families. These are all my brothers.
And you feel like the union supports you as a woman?
100%. I know as far as Local 46, it's very few women, but the women that are here, they love us, and we get treated very well.
So the people who are watching at home, what would you want them to do in order to support your movement?
You know what? Thursdays, they have Count Me In, 6 o'clock, Hudson Yard, 34th Street, 10th Avenue. Come out and support.
Thank you so much. I'm sorry, it's getting a little crazy here. Thank you so much. It's great to
You're
talk
very
to
welcome.
Thanks a lot. Good luck.
Thank you.
You're watching act.tv's live coverage of the Count Me In rally, where hundreds of construction and building trades men and women are gathered to protest against the allegedly racist I don't want to. I mean, allegedly is a shit word, but you know they've given evidence of his racism. They've given evidence of his sexism, and they've given evidence, clear evidence of his desire to bust up unions and his techniques to do that. The police are we're kind of pushed up against one of the police barricades. They're asking us to go in, which we are doing. And they're starting to slowly let traffic, open up the street and let traffic go by after at least, I'd say, 30 or 40 union tradesmen put their bodies on the line. They put their bodies on the street. They sat across East 51st Street. Well, they sat on East 51st Street and crossed Park Avenue, definitely causing a lot of traffic problems. But also bringing a lot of attention to basically union busting, which is not only happening here in New York City, where we happen to be a very strong union town, and it's almost impossible to live on non-union wages. It's very hard to live in New York City on union wages, given the gentrification and the high cost of living here, which is happening in cities across the country. You know that the Trump administration is loving busting up unions.
Somebody's kid. Took it for the team.
The only people left in the crosswalk now are the police. But it's been very calm, very sort of orderly, not a lot of disorder. No violence that I could tell. Again, you're watching Act TV's live coverage of the Count Me In rally, where hundreds of building tradesmen have gathered in front of the NFL to protest against Steve Ross's racist, sexist, and union-busting ways as the head of not only the Miami Dolphins, which is a whole other story about taking a knee, and he's one of the first ones who basically said he's going to penalize his players if they take a knee. So talk about not being a racist and then saying he's going to do that as one of the first of the NFL players or owners to do that. I think he may have rolled that back. I'm not exactly sure, but he certainly has not rolled back his desire to bust up the unions that work on one of the largest construction projects here in New York City, basically, obviously, wanting to hire, lesser paid laborers. Perhaps he is trying to pull a Trump, because that's basically what Donald Trump has done in his buildings here in New York City. Hundreds, if not thousands, perhaps a few thousand. It's really hard to estimate from the ground and being only 5 feet off the ground when a lot of these union laborers are 6 or 7 or 100 feet. They're seen very tall. Let's just put it that way. Organizers have asked me to let you know that what you could do from home is to call the NFL Commissioner Roger Goodell and tell him to have Steve step down from I believe it's the Social Justice Committee. You can call at 212-450-2000, 212-450-2000. It looks like most of the action has passed, and we were lucky to be able to speak with one of the actual workers. There's a full bus of union members being carted off, and I think the group is here to basically send them off. You can hear a lot of clapping. Again, you can follow this movement at #CountMeIn. You see the bus there, it is filled with the people who did a civil disobedience. There were women women on the line as well as men. I did notice that most of the people risking arrest or being arrested were Caucasian. It was hard to kind of see. I was told that was not by design. It seems like a good idea given the way people of color are treated in the criminal justice system. The bus that's on its way, they're basically getting a hero's send-off. Again, you're watching ACT TV's live coverage of the Count Me In rally here in front of the NFL headquarters.
Let me hear you cheer them, man. That's our brothers and sisters. That's what solidarity is. Cheer them, man. Cheer them. We love you. Cheer the brothers and sisters. All right, everybody. Go home to your families. Be safe.
They're wrapping up.
We love you.
They're wrapping up the Count Me In rally, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks for watching ACT TV's live coverage of this count loud here in New York City. Thanks for watching ACT TV's live coverage of the Count Me In rally here in New York City. If you want to, you can call NFL Commissioner Roger Goodell and tell him to have Steve step down. I noticed a lot of things. One of the things I noticed were hundreds, if not thousands, of union trades workers here in front of the NFL headquarters.
Great job. We're proud of every one of you here. Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Thank you. We love you guys. All the sergeant ones, please return the vest. Please come straight to the truck.
You've been watching ACT TV's live coverage of the Count Me In rally here in front of NFL headquarters, where hundreds, if not perhaps thousands, of union tradesmen and women have come together to protest against union busting done by Steve Ross. He is the chairman and founder of Related Companies and the owner of the Miami Dolphins. These protesters are asking for the NFL to kick him off or ask him to resign from the Social Justice Committee for the NFL, believing that that is an enormously Hippocratic chair for him to hold. They've also brought a lot of attention to the fact that Steve Ross and Related Companies are working hard to divide this group on racial lines, to divide them on economic lines, to divide them back, between, the people who are construction workers and the people who are who lay the pipe and all the different types of workers, and that these groups are standing in solidarity. They've also been supported by the AFL-CIO, and this has been a really exciting rally. I think if you've been watching, you saw people put their bodies on the line for this. You saw an act of civil disobedience with the blocking of Park Avenue in the middle of rush hour here in New York City. If you like this kind of coverage, if you want to hear what's actually happening in the streets, you may want to follow us and or please share us, because I don't see MSNBC here. I don't see CNN here. I don't see anyone here except for independent media outlets like ACT TV. So keep watching. We'll see you next time.
79.